this is Mr. Jason Walters, who is the building manager of 890 Broadway, and this is Ballet Tech Talks. Mr. Jason, how did you first start working in theater?
I went to school for theater, and when I was in school, I did sound and lights and stage management, and I loved it. And I decided to work professionally while I was still in school. So I worked throughout the city, and I did lights and sound and stage managed a bunch of shows throughout the city. And then after I graduated, I worked as an independent contractor, which means I didn't have like one job. I worked all over the city doing lights and sound, and I stage managed a bunch of shows.
Okay, so, well, you said that you worked on lights and sound. Did you work on anything else?
Well, I was an actor for a little while, but I was terrible at it. So I was like, I'm going to stay out of that. I'm just going to do stuff backstage. I prefer that.
Mm-hmm. And what was one of your favorite shows to work on, and why?
One of my favorite shows to work on was the 2010 Tony Awards. Because it was really amazing to see how just like when everything big, when you have a lot of money and you have a lot of time and you have a lot of resources, that you can just basically put on just the best show possible. So to be part of that was just really an incredible experience for me. It was just like the highlight of my career.
Yeah, my paper also says here that you watched the Lakers game with Denzel Washington in the backstage of the 2010 Tonys.
Well, you've been doing your research. That is true. I did meet Denzel Washington during the Tony Awards. I was working the red carpet. I was in charge of helping produce the red carpet, and he walked down and he saw me watching the Laker game during the finals, and he said, "Turn off the Tony Awards. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch the Laker game." So he took me aside, and him and I just started watching the game until the game ended, and we talked about the whole game. It was great, and the Lakers won, and then he went on and then talked to the press after that about the Tony Awards. It was great.
Did you talk to the press?
No, nobody cares about what I have to say. They cared about Denzel Washington.
Well, what is something that's challenging when working on a production?
There is a lot of people involved when you have to put a show on. So between the people who are actually going on stage, and then there's the directors, and then there's the writers, and then you have people who are doing the lights and the sound, and then there are people who have to market the show and get people to actually see it. And all of that has to come together, and then at that point you have a show that goes on, and then that has to be perfect. So it's pretty amazing how all that happens to come together, and when it does, it's kind of a magical experience.
It's great that everybody puts their time and effort into that stuff. So,
True.
well, it also says a few other celebrities other than Denzel Washington on this paper as well. What was your favorite celebrity to meet and why?
A long time ago, you probably have no idea who I'm talking about, but I stage managed for Joan Rivers, and she is a comedian, and she went up to me right before the show, and she says, "I really need a potted plant." And I was like, "Okay, I don't have a potted plant." She's like, "Well, we need to find one because I need it for the show." And I said, "Okay." So her and I started walking all over the building finding a potted plant. And her and I were just like laughing and talking about how ridiculous this was. And then we found the potted plant and we walked out and she did her show and she thanked me and she was super nice. And I was like, this was a crazy experience that just happened. So I was really happy to be part of that. That was definitely my favorite show.
Yeah, my paper says that you once scored a college campus with Joan Rivers looking for a potted plant. So I guess it was a college campus.
It's true.
Yeah, so, well, how did you first start working at Ballet Tech? How did you find it, even?
Well, I had been working at an off-Broadway and a Broadway theater company called Second Stage and at the Helen Hayes Theater. And honestly, I was just burnt out. I was really tired. And I was like, I want to just change my career. I want to do something a little different. So I was like, I want to work with kids. And this job was posted, and I went for it. And I met with Mr. Feld, and I met with Maggie, who's the executive director, and they liked me and they hired me.
Well, what do you do on a typical day at Ballet Tech? What's your schedule?
What's my schedule? Well, I come here and I walk up 8 flights of stairs, which is terrible, and then I just basically either deal with some kind of project, because there's always some kind of construction project that's happening in the building, or I may be getting a list of notes from people that something's broken, or I may just have to do a walkthrough, because not only is Ballet Tech in this building, but American Ballet Theater's here, as is Gibney, and they all have needs. So each one of those organizations may come to me and say, hey, I've got something weird going on my floor. Can you please come down and take a look? And so very rarely do I actually get to sit at my desk for more than 20 minutes, because someone's always calling me to deal with something.
So you work on all the floors basically because you're the building manager?
Because I'm the building manager. That's right.
Which floor do you work on mostly?
Well, definitely this one, because this being the 8th floor, because this is where I sit. So most of the time I get more involved in the activity on this floor, but every floor in this building usually needs me for something.
Are you in Ballet Tech most, or are you usually in like other companies most?
I'm mostly with Ballet Tech, but then, another 40% of my time is elsewhere in the building. So.
Well, what are some unique facts about 890 Broadway? I mean, you're the building manager. You should know some facts about it.
That's true. 890 Broadway was built in 1896, and then it expanded in 1906. So it's really two buildings in one. And for many years, it was a clothing factory. They made like men's clothing in the building, and then Mr. Feld ended up coming to the building in the late 70s and was one of the first of the many arts institutions in the building. And then Michael Bennett, who was the director and choreographer of Chorus Line, bought the building, and it basically became a hub for the arts. The building itself is called the Lawrence Wien Dance and Theater Building.
So it's not just dance, it's theater?
There's a lot of theater history here. So where the movie theater is, used to be an off-Broadway theater called Studio 890, and they would produce shows downstairs. And we had a set designer that had his office here named Robin Wagner, and we had a costume designer named Theone Aldridge. She was also in the building, and we had the largest costume manufacturer in the building. Her name is Barbara Matera, and basically everything was done in-house so they can produce everything here and then move it to Broadway if it was a successful show.
This is Ballet Tech Talks. This is Quinn. This is Jason. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other facts? I mean, that's all very interesting.
I don't at this very moment. Maybe if you give me 1 second, I can think of another one.
So sadly, he does not have any more facts, but I do have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I don't. Never mind. That's it.